Hey, what's going on, everyone? Alright, so it's finally that time to go ahead and repair this old cracked Datsun Dash. So many Datsun owners have this problem, and yeah, it just comes with the territory of owning a Z car. But mine has an abnormal amount of cracks, and they're all pretty deep. So you can see all the way through. And it looks like that middle one has been been repaired before. So we've got a lot of work to do to this dash. All that there, that'll be nice and fun. But could be worse. I could not have a dash, so at least I'm repairing this one. So first thing we got to do is I've got a Dremel, and we need to go ahead and Dremel out these cracks to really expose the base of the crack and really get in there with the body filler that we're going to use. So we've got to use a Dremel and kind of bevel down the edges, make it a nice valley, and give us something to work with. So I just went to Walmart and picked up a cheap old Dremel, and that's what we're going to use to go ahead and start this project. Alright, so I just got this first side done with the Dremel. You definitely want to wear a mask when you're doing this, because there's a lot of little dust particles, and it does not smell good, and I'm sure it's not good for you. So I put on a painter's mask when I'm doing this, and yeah, it's going pretty good. That little tool comes in pretty handy. I'm not really sure what bit that is, but it works pretty good. It used to be pink. And I just got this little Dremel from Walmart for like 20 bucks. So yeah, that worked pretty good. Alright, so I hope you guys get the idea about what's going on here. So just need to bevel out the cracks all the way across this crack-filled dash, and go ahead and start to get some fiberglass in there. But first I gotta bevel them all out. So I'm not gonna make you watch me do all of them. You guys get the idea, but I kind of wanted to show you what it takes. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all of these beveled down, and then we can start laying some fiberglass. Alright, so here's the dash. Got all the cracks Dremeled out, ground down to a pretty good flat area, and now we're going to go ahead and start trying to fill these cracks. I also, once I got them pretty even, I went over with some sandpaper. So I just used some 80 grit sandpaper and kind of ground down the edges, because it was a little rough along the edges. So get that sanded down nice and smooth. So now we can go ahead and start filling these cracks. You can see how much I found, how much I'm going to have to fill. So it's going to be a lot of work, but I went through and found all the cracks so that would try not to miss any, so hopefully none show up later, and this dash will last a long time. So now I'm going to use some Bondo glass. You can just get this at AutoZone, Advanced, wherever. It's like 20 something bucks, I think, but I'm just going to use that to fill these crevices. I've seen people use like expanding foam and all different kinds of things. So Bondo fiberglass is a little bit forgiving. It's a little bit flexible, so the dash had to flex a little bit, it wouldn't start cracking. So I'm just going to use that as a filler. And then I actually have some Bondo that is like padded dash filler Bondo that I'll show you in a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and mix this fiberglass up and start filling these cracks. Alright, so the dash is fully filled with fiberglass. All the cracks are filled, so now I am going to go ahead and knock down the rough edges, sand it down a little bit, anywhere where there's some fiberglass that there shouldn't have been, and knock that down with like a DA sander. And I've got a smaller one here, just with like some 80 grit and like 180. And once I get everything kind of smooth, then I'll be able to go back and hit it with the padded dash filler that's like actual Bondo. Alright, so I got the dash sanded down and any of the excess fiberglass sanded off. So now it's all pretty smooth across the whole thing. Obviously, there's still some valley to each of those cracks, but I was able to get it filled pretty much with one pass of the fiberglass, or at least one coat across all of them, and they're pretty well filled. So now I will show you the actual dash filler top coat that I'm going to use. Okay, so this is what I'm going to go ahead and use as the top coat. It's really small can, not much here, so we'll see if this is going to cover all of my cracks, because I obviously have a lot. I also don't know that you really need to have this or use this, even though it might say it's for dashes. It could be no different than regular Bondo, and if this is not enough, then I'm just going to use regular Bondo, so we'll see. But that's what I'm going to go ahead and use. I'll use it till I run out. Alright, so I got the first layer of Bondo on. You can still see that there is a valley there. So it's going to need another coat, which is no problem. But it's coming out pretty good. And I didn't really use much of the can, so I think I'm going to definitely have enough of that dash filler to fill this whole thing. Alright, so there it is. I've obviously wiped the whole dash in Bondo, and I did start sanding it down a little bit. But basically now it's the hard work. So need to hard and tedious work. So have to smooth down all of the edges and really make it look flush, make it look factory. And this is going to be tedious work. So alright, so I got the dash kind of how I think it should look. It's pretty hard forming this curve here, but it's pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some filler primer on there and kind of see where I'm at, see where there might be some waves and places I need to stand again. So this is just going to be kind of like a guide to show me where I need to keep working. Alright, so the dash is finally as good as I'm going to get it. I put the primer on and I saw a few spots that I needed to touch up again, so I laid a few more coats of Bondo on there and sanded it all down. So now I'm left with this. I've got it up here on the table. I'm about ready to paint it. When I put primer on it, I used gray, but that wasn't smart. I went ahead and went to Walmart and bought some black primer. So now the whole dash will be black, just like it should be when it goes in the car. Alright, well there it is, all painted up. The black primer was a great idea. So now, whenever a couple months from now, whoever knows how long until I get ready to flock it, I can just sand it back down, get any of the dust or whatnot that's accumulated on it, and it'll be good to go. So, yeah, it looks really good. There's obviously a few imperfections in some spots. You can kind of see that there, but even if you were going to use some kind of like textured paint that would hide that little scratch there, or it's really hard to make it really clean up in this crack because that little cowl cover for the vent goes right there, so that's not a big deal. But yeah, if I was to use some like textured paint, that would hide all the flaws, and since I'm flocking it, that's going to definitely hide them as well, so I didn't have to go too crazy with it. So that's going to be it for this one. I would definitely recommend black primer when you're doing this, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.